We have a fit-to-bursting grid for the 7th season of the Michelin Le Mans Cup, spread across 2 different categories, GT3 and LMP3. And what a perfect place to start another campaign in the Le Mans Cup, which began in 2017. It is Le Castellet, and the home of Circuit Paul Ricard, for this great championship to begin. Of course, it principally comes from France, so great to be able to be in this country to kick things off. But we will have 2 visits to Italy, to Spa-Francorchamps, to Portimao and to Barcelona as well. So lots to look forward to, with 2 races as well during the race week of the 24 Hours of Le Mans in June. New teams to conjure with, and myself, Johnny Palmer, and Graham Goodwin of dailysportscar.com can pick our way through, notably GMB Motorsport.
Great story, isn't it? GMB Motorsport. Good afternoon, everybody, from a very sunny Paul Ricard. Not something we've been able to say all week, but we can today. 3 Honda NSX Evo 22s being brought by this all-Danish team. That means all-Danish team, all-Danish management, all-Danish drivers. And they form a very important, a very pacey part of the GT3 grid, which is what we're going to see first in this qualifying session this afternoon, Johnny.
Yeah, and 7 cars there are in total, so these are all based within the GT3 division, a category we used to have, if you go back long enough, in ELMS, but it broke away to form a separate championship, initially only GT3s, and then the following year the Michelin Le Mans Cup welcomed LMP3s. A total of 31 cars we are going to have in the next 15-minute session. This is a fairly long track at Le Castellet, but nevertheless that's going to be frantic. So a reminder of this 5.7 kilometre circuit, the very narrow footprint. It lies right next to Le Castellet Airport, and it's tight and twisty on one side, and then flat chat, keep the steering wheel straight, down the Mistral straight itself, and into turn 8 at Senior Corner, famous around the world actually as one of the fastest and more striking race corners, but named after the nearby town just over the back fence and the home of Orica.
Absolutely, and all sorts of good stuff going on here, not just here this weekend, but around the back fence with, of course, near neighbours Orica, responsible not only for the LMP2 cars we'll be seeing later for the European Le Mans Series, but the drivetrains for all of the LMP3 cars. And as well, we'll be also assembling the new and newly unveiled Ferrari 296 GT3.
Yes.
The little birdie tells me that before its official shakedown, it might well have done a lap or 2 here before being sent off to Italy.
Well, that would make sense.
Absolutely, very firmly designed in Ferrari in Italy, the successor to this car, the Ferrari 488, that will join competition next year in customer hands, but those cars are being assembled by Orica in the south of France.
Caught a glimpse a moment or 2 ago, Graham, of the Ebby Motors entry. Initially, that wasn't meant to be a Porsche 911 GT3R. No. It is now, but there's a story there.
Well, I think there's a growing story, not just for world motorsport, but for the world in general, supply chain difficulties. That was going to be a Lamborghini Huracan Evo, and anybody with long memories for the Michelin Le Mans Cup will remember EB Motors being part of this. I think it might have been as long as 3 seasons ago, with Busnelli's beautifully prepared Lamborghini. There's another beautifully prepared car, or beautifully repaired car. This is the Bullet Racing car. Some stories about that one to come. Sadly, the team, with not very much time before the season starting, realised this fuel cell of that car was out of date. These things do have a use before date, and the supply chain was not able to chuck something in a jiffy bag and send it across to EB Motors, which left the team, or indeed in this case the driver, as we go live for this session, to go and buy a new car.
Yeah.
And the very bright yellow front and shape band on that car, for which we thank EB Motors, because it's not difficult to pick it out of any kind of weather, was obtained less than a week before this race meeting. Aston Martin, Honda, Ferrari. Great to see the Hondas here.
It really is, and they make quite a presence just in the paddock. That's before we see them out on track. You were right, it was a few years ago for Ebby Motors' GT3 win in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. That was 2017.
Wow.
When Emanuele Busnelli and Fabio Babini beat Lee Mole by 2 points to the 2017 Drivers' Championship in GT3. So 17 was the first year that LMP3s were brought in as a full-time part of the campaign, where there were points scoring. 2016 was known as the Michelin GT3 Le Mans Cup, where it was just GT cars, although we had the addition of P3s, I remember, for the Road to Le Mans.
Okay.
And that's going to be happening again this year. Road to Le Mans sitting in its usual spot in the calendar. I think I mentioned this championship goes to Barcelona this year. It does not, because effectively 2 races at Le Mans replace the Barcelona round. So Ricard this weekend, Imola, 2 at Le Mans, then to Monza, which has replaced the race planned for Hungary and Hungaroring. We can't go there for obvious reasons, so we've moved that to Monza instead. Spa-Francorchamps and to the Algarve and the Portimao International Circuit at the end of the season in October. 15 minutes will disappear very quickly here. Even though there are 7 cars out on track, it will take a couple of minutes to get tyres up to temperature, all running on the Michelin Control tyre. And yes, a chance to see these new Honda NSXs from GMB Motorsport in anger.
Yep, 3 almost identically liveried Hondas, which is hugely helpful.
Isn't it just?
Yes, but they'll be out the 44 car in the hands of Gustav Birch. Emanuele Busnelli it is indeed in the 46 Porsche. It is Marcos Vivian de la Pedrosa in the number 51 AF Corsa Ferrari, 1 and 2 from that team. Casper H. Jensen in the number 55 GMB car. Gino Forgione in the second AF Corsa car. Mikkel O. Pedersen, I apologise, one of 2 Pedersens, completely unrelated to each other, by the way, in the 88 GMB car. And Stephen Patrick in the Bullet Racing Aston Martin, the number 99 car. So a varied group of 7 cars. And by the way, with more to come this season, at least a couple of teams may have made it clear that they will be entering on a race-by-race basis. It's a very crowded weekend of racing around Europe this weekend, and not a surprise that individuals and teams have got clashing priorities. We're with Gino Forgione though, Johnny, in this number 61 Ferrari.
This is a bronze-only session. You mentioned Mikkel O. Pedersen. He's a silver, so it's actually going to be Lars Engelbrecht Pedersen. As you say, no relation. I think there's been a late tweak in the driver ID there to confirm for 88.
It has. And
to make sure that they're not in breach of the regulations. Designed that way to give extra responsibility, extra onus on the bronze-rated driver. That's one of the USPs of this championship, and the reason why it attracts a number of GT teams and competitors wanting to give the bronze a lot of track time.
Just a quick shot of the GMB Motorsport pit lane. I think we're being watched on an iPhone at the moment. So hello and again, welcome to GMB Motorsport. 61 car, though, at the moment is the car with some pace. It'll be the first car to cross the line, I think. Yes, it is. 61 Ferrari ahead of the 55 Honda. 55 Honda going quickly as well. Traditionally seen, Johnny, times improve throughout these sessions as these bronze drivers just get their head dialed into the task ahead. And not unusual at all to see literally every lap seen improvements. A slightly wide moment there for the 55 car. 61 has gone through. It's a 2 minutes .661 is the banker for the number 61 Ferrari.
With Christian Paulsen going through, setting a 2:04.2. Busnelli's time for Ebby Motors, a 2:04.7. So back to effectively defend his title from 5 years ago. And now bettering them all, Lars Engelbrecht Pedersen, 1:59.135. So there's your first sub 2 minute lap for GMB Motorsport number 88 Honda. Gino Forgione stays second, but he's joined now by his teammate from AF Corsa, Marcos Vivian della Pedrosa, and the 51 car going third with a 2:02.7.
I think we're about to see Jens Moller, though, a man with no little heritage in motorsports. Goes back to Lister Storm days, Jens Moller, and knows these cars well, has been racing Hondas for a good few years. He's about to cross the line with 2 purple sectors before he does so. Goes to the top at a 1:57.378. So that is, by distance at the moment, the provisional pole setting time. GMB Motorsport 1-2, AF Corsa 3-4. then the third Honda, then the EB Motors Porsche, and at the moment the Bullet Racing Aston Martin. It's dramas this week after a big shunt in the first practice session.
Gino Forgione coming through Bose corner and into the final sector in Ferrari number 61 for AF Corsa, running in third position then, and with a bit of time to find on two Honda NSXs from GMB Motorsport. GMB will be looking, of course, to get all three cars in those top three positions by the end. Squealer tyres in the background there. Don't know who that was from. Might become obvious in a moment. 8 minutes and 50 seconds to go. So there should be plenty of time to be had here as the pace continues to quicken. And there we have the GMB Motorsport cars topping the times. 55 ahead of 44 and 88. So Christian Poulsen taking longer to get up to speed than his teammates Jens Muller and Lars Engelbrecht Pedersen, but it's a 1:57.072 that puts Poulsen 0.3 of a second clear.
Yeah, and that is the Christian Poulsen of FIWC fame as the original Dane train some years ago. Great to see him back in international competition. And that's a bit of a spin.
There was the squeal of tyres. Yeah. I thought I'd heard something in the background. So that happened at out of turn 6 for Pedersen, Lars Engelbrecht Pedersen, in the 88 car with the green detailing. It's got green skirts on that car, which I don't think they all have, so that might be the very slight difference for 88 compared to 55 and 44, which now goes top. So Jens Muller outpacing Christian Poulsen there, and Muller squeezing out an extra, well, 3/4 of a second pretty much, 1:56.314, with an absolute best through the third sector. There was an absolute best through the second sector for Christian Poulsen on this very lap as well, so still some time to find for car 55 if he can keep this up.
He's definitely quicker on this lap, Christian Poulsen, than Jens Muller. Christian, remember, a double Le Mans winner. He's won in two separate classes, one in the fabulous Porsche RS Spider at Le Mans in 2009, and then took a very emotional win in 2014 in GTM with David Heimar Hansen, who, by the way, makes his comeback to racing after a couple of years away in the European Le Mans Series later this weekend, and Nicky Thiem. Emotional because, of course, it came after the year where Christian was part of the crew that included the late and much lamented Alan Simonson.
Yeah. So, yeah, they were a real emotional period of time for Christian, and all connected with him, but it's brilliant to have him back in ACO Rules Racing with this striking challenge from GMB Motorsport. First, second and third, well, they were, but EB Motors now spoils that as Emanuele Busnelli goes across the line. 3 personal bests on the 5.7 kilometres we have here at Le Castellet, and car 46, 1:58.6. Spoils the GMB party, albeit briefly.
But goes off the road briefly on his, what's that, turn 2 on the following lap. Christian Poulsen's not given this one up. He is gone purple. Oh, there was a big wiggle, wasn't it, really? Again, did well to grab that back. Poulsen goes purple in sector 1. He's got 0.4 of a second to find. Lost time in the final sector on a lap I thought he coulda, shoulda re-grabbed provisional pole position. 5 minutes and 45 seconds to go in this session.
Now, lap 5 for car 46 been deleted. That's not the one where Busnelli bagged third position provisionally, though. It was the next one where he left the track out of turn 2, which makes sense. It was kind of self-policing, to be honest, because he was in a right old moment, which took some car control, and you're not going to produce a good lap from that anyway. But to make sure that the housekeeping is in order, that lap is automatically deleted before it is completed, in fact. Ferrari ahead of Honda NSX on the track, and
lifting off to give himself some room here, I think.
That's red door mirrors for the 55. Okay, so I think I've just about worked them out now.
So that is Christian Poulsen realising that the Ferrari ahead of him is going to give him trouble in terms of completing that lap at pace. Remember, what we're looking at here, Johnny, is the future of international ACO GT racing.
Good point. Yeah,
we've got this season and one more for the GTE class as things stand currently. GTE Pro will be complete And that history book will be closed at the end of the 2022 season. Just the 23 season for GTM to continue, and then it will be a GT3 base formula. Yep. That's why GMB Motorsport are here. This starts the road, they hope, to Le Mans and the Le Mans 24 Hours by 2024. They are going to be looking to make a splash. They're doing it so far.
Well, certainly grabbing a lot of headlines purely by the way that the team is presenting themselves. And 3 cars, near identical in the very smart colours of Denmark, with the Danish flag adorning the roof of all 3 cars as well. And the 88 leaning on its door mirrors a little bit there, under control of Lars Engelbrecht Pedersen. Again, a chance perhaps to improve on times. He did so last time around with a personal best through Sector 1, so finding some time there. In fact, he's not as quick through Sector 1 this time around, but it could be a very good lap for Christian Poulsen in the 55. The car that holds on to provisional pole with 3.5 minutes still to go has pitted. That might be the last we see of Jens Moller in this session.
Quite an odd one, because he was actually up in both sectors, so whether or not that's tyre related, that they're just looking after the tyres, but man, at the moment I'm sure he's looking after his tyres, but he's doing it by going very quickly. Although, has he lifted off again?
Yes, he has. So 2 absolute bests, Sector 1 and 2, but maybe this car heading for the pits as well. So an indication to everybody else that these cars still have more time to fire, or can give more time, but they don't want to necessarily show the complete lap just yet.
Now, the thing to mention here, because it's come up in the press room through the week, is that these cars have been very, very quick here. It's a very different circuit to some of the ones we'll be seeing. The big, long, wide open spaces, these cars very quick in a straight line. And the BOP game, I'm sure, will be being played up and down this pit lane.
Meanwhile, Stephen Patrick staying out and looking like he will set his best lap of the session for Bullet Racing, the number 99 Aston Martin that he shares with Théo Nuet of France.
Yeah, we'll be seeing Valentin Haase-Clot later in the season, but another man with a dual programme this year. I think Valentin is busy with the opening round of the French GT4 Championship over at Nogaro, a traditional Easter weekend meeting, a big meeting not so very far away from us here. But
Busnelli applying the power. Now, this is the fastest car out there on the track currently, the one that has set the best time that remains in the session, if you like, with the 2 quicker than it already in the pit lane, 44 and 55 from GMB Motorsport. So Ebby Motors and Busnelli wanting to stay ahead of the 4 cars it tops currently, but if it can eat its way into the GMB Motorsport machines, they won't have a chance to reply. Personal best through the first sector, not quite quick enough through Sector 2 though, and that's where the Hondas are finding a lot of their lap time down the Mistral Straight.
Blisteringly quick in a straight line. Those Hondas have been quicker than some of the LMP3s in a straight line throughout the week.
0.412 of a second slower, I think that is, than the Honda's times, even though the first sector for Busnelli is a personal best time. He is actually 0.6 of a second away from Christian Poulsen's best effort so far through the first sector.
So much quicker lap for Busnelli than he's gone before. He'll want to complete this and see where he stands on pure pace. It was a 1:58.653. What's it going to be this time? It's going to be a 1:58 again.
He didn't go quicker.
It was a poor third sector. Even though it was quicker than he'd gone before, that was a very odd lap.
Well, he was quicker than he'd been before through sectors 1 and 3. Down the Mistral wasn't that shabby when you consider he's driving the Porsche, which is not necessarily showing the straight line speed that others can, as the checkered flag is now out and a number of cars still circulating, so 45 will squeeze an extra lap out of it. However, the third of the Hondas from GMB has decided to pit. That's car 88 for Lars Engelbrecht Pedersen.
Yeah, it's a good first sector from Gino Forgione in this 61 Ferrari, but a poor middle sector again. It's that straight line speed that's doing it here for the Hondas. No doubt about it.
Busnelli does not improve on his run through sector 1, so I think tyres now are really cried enough for the Porsche. The two AF Corsa Ferraris, Gino Forgione and Marcus Vivian Della Pedrosa, 51, both have improved through the first sector.
Yeah, to give you an idea about that, with the checkered flag out, 278.4 kilometres an hour is the terminal speed for the second placed, the Hondas at the moment, the 55 car. Compare that to the two Ferraris at 265, 15 kilometres an hour quicker in a straight line.
At a senior corner will go Vivian Della Pedrosa, and again further improvement. Gino Forgione has gone across the line to see the checkered flag and did take it rather than coming into the pit, so he'll have another 5.7 kilometres to do before he'll get back to the team. No improvement in time or in position therefore, and the 61 qualifying in 5th place.
Looking at 51 though, it's a quicker lap for the 51 here.
Yes,
He's going to complete
true.
this lap. Won't put him anywhere close to pole position, but may well be an improvement. There's some weird stuff going on in that third sector.
Here comes Vivian Della Pedrosa then to cross the line. Can it get the better of the 61 Ferrari and jump up a spot? No, but it is the best lap nevertheless for the British driver. 2 minutes, .159 for car 51, and everybody else is home. So it's a first pole of the year for brand new team GMB Motorsport to the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Car 44 bags pole position for Gustav Bursche, we will see on the race, but Jens Muller did the time. We can hear from him now.
I'm joined here by Jens Muller, driver of car number 44, GMB Motorsport. Great start to your 2022 campaign, grabbing pole here in Le Castellet. It's a track that you know well, and you're driving, of course, a car that you know well. What are your expectations for the race?
Oh, it's that we agreed that all 3 Bronx drivers will start in the car, so I think it will be a tough fight with Christian in the 55 car. So let's see. I hope we can do a good job and be able to grab a podium. I have the son of the owner of GMB as my co-driver. He's a quite young, talent driver, so I hope we are able to fight for the victory.
Thank you very much, gents.
Jens Muller, having done a couple of seasons now in the International GT Open and a full season, in fact, last year in this particular car. They started their season at Le Castellet last year, so that's Haley Edmonds' reference to the fact that he knows the car, he knows the track. GMB Motorsport 1-2, 156.3 was Jens' time, 0.4 of a second back to Christian Poulsen's effort in the 55. Then Ebby Motors rather spoiling the Danish party with Emanuele Busnelli, GT3 co-champion in the Drivers' Championship in 2017, gets the Porsche to 3rd spot with a 158.653. The third of the GMB Motorsport Hondas was 4th fastest for Lars Engelbrecht Pedersen, ahead of Gino Forgione, the first of 2 AF Corsa Ferraris, number 61, in turn ahead of Marcus Vivian Della Pedrosa. And finally, Stephen Patrick for Bullet Racing, the only Aston Martin in the field, finishes 7th fastest, car number 99, with a 201.5. The clock is reset, 15 more minutes then put on that, and we prepare ourselves for what will be quite a bit more of a busy session, arguably, with 31 cars as part of the LMP3 lineup. A combination of Ligier JS P320s with the Nissan engine and the same engine for the Duqueine M30 D08. And one thing we haven't mentioned, actually, is the fact that the brand new Nissan engine, 5.6 litre V8, rather struggled to get to the end of the races last year because it is quite a thirsty lump that sits behind the drivers. So the race distance has been adjusted for 2022. They are no longer 2-hour races. They will last an hour and 50 minutes.
Correct. And that should save us from too much brain explosion trying to work out the strategy.
Yes, there's lots of that.
Lots of new again here. One of them is the Wochenspiegel Team Manschau car with Rinaldi this year. We just saw the whitest LMP3 car in history, and is the Reiter engineering car. Great to see Hans Reiter here. Freddie Hunt, son of the late and very great James Hunt, on the grid for that team. You can hear the cars firing up to go down to pit exit. It's going to get very busy, it's going to get very quick, and I've zero doubt we're going to see some dramas, even in qualifying. And Lord alone knows what we're going to see in this race tomorrow. It's going to be great fun.
It's going to be incredibly noisy as well for any fans that have made their way towards the end of pit lane, or basically towards the grandstand area, where you'll get a great view of the cars pouring their way out of pit lane and into the chicane at turns 1 and 2. Lots of teams returning for another season in this championship. You start from the top: United, DKR, Nielsen Racing, WTM back for a second season, Edex Sport are there, Optimum Motorsport with a name change.
No,
but
that's the first LMP3 appearance from Optimum.
Right.
That car transferring over from Nielsen. It's the car that was previously the Grey Market Racing effort, but now with Optimum.
So same race number, but very different team underneath the skin this year. And first time entry for Optimum Motorsport. It's brilliant to have them. Team Virage are there from Poland, although very Spanish underneath their skin. CD Sport are all Spanish. And Graf Racing, going back so many years in single-seater racing, they made a return to prototypes, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and they have a couple of cars in the entry as well. And it's really good to see Team Thor back too.
I was corrected, by the way.
Go on.
It's Team Tor.
Team Tour, okay, doing a tour of Europe.
They're doing a tour of Europe. So Oda Gudmundsson dropped me a line to say he was terribly sorry, he'd misdirected me, and he was going to be coming back this season after having initially told us he wasn't. But there is a change there. In fact, there's 2 changes there. It was Kayan Kempe Racing that were the service provider there last year, the Finnish team. They'll be actually, by the way, taking part in a brand new championship, the Prototype Cup Germany this year, in their own right, after having debuted at Duquesne in the Asia Le Mans series. But this year, Team Tour will be looked after by High Class Racing, and it's their nominated reserve driver, Michael Markusson, that will be supporting Orton Gudmundsson this year. So it's great to see our Icelandic chums back with the help of yet more Danes.
Can never have enough of them, can you, frankly? This again will be a all-bronze session, so only the bronze permitted to qualify the car. Then a decision to be made, and interestingly, GMB Motorsport have already given us a steer on that, or Jens Moller did as well. I don't know whether he was supposed to be telling us that it will be the bronzes starting all 3 of the Honda NSXs. You don't have to start with your qualifying driver, and if you have a poor qualifying, sometimes the teams, actually the decision will have been made before the qualifying session, but sometimes it is wise to, if you think the car won't qualify so well, put in the gun driver initially to gain the spots and then hand it over to the bronze to try and retain them. Yeah,
long train of LMP3 cars here, 31 of them to start this qualifying session, and we hope the race later. The Ligiers amongst them, I believe now 90 Ligier JSP 320s have been built. That's in addition to a number of cars that will still be on this grid that are rebuilt from the previous JSP 3. There was an upgrade kit available, but rapidly closing in on the numbers of JSP 3s that were built, which was well into 3 figures. But great stuff. This, though, that one briefly, though, as we see the
1 minute to the start of the Michelin Le Mans Cup qualifying session, LMP3 qualifying session.
That is our Bahraini race director, who will be playing super duper sub for Eduardo Freitas at 3 European Le Mans Series races this year. Confirmation from Eduardo that amongst his Formula 1 duties, which he was in Melbourne, I made a bit of a mistake, he was in Melbourne, but he wasn't the actual presiding race director. He will make his debut as the F1 race director at Barcelona. He will be doing a full WEC season and 3 European Le Mans Series race weekends this year. So lovers of the silky smooth Portuguese tones of Eduardo Freitas will have plenty to...
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pit exit is green, pit exit is green. The Michelin Le Mans Cup qualifying session for LMP3 has now started.
Our friend Farsi from Bahrain will eventually pick up the counting from 10 rather than 8. being slightly facetious.
Still worked.
It still
fine.
worked.
That's quite a narrow parking space.
Was
for,
it just?
Which car was that?
That's
White,
that's
blue,
the
or
31. I think that's the F Corsa car.
Yeah, okay.
Crichton and Dudis is the car there. We'll see Rui Agamash share that car.
The blue and the white of the Greek flag, therefore. Plenty of pointing at screens by United Autosports. I think maybe some of them were not working.
27 here. That's another new entry for the full season. 24/7 Motorsports. Brothers Henderson from the UK. Ferguson, apologise. They had a one-off at Portimao last season and have come back as a full season entry. There was a lot to look forward to in the Michelin Le Mans Cup this season. This is not going to be short of action, and I fear it might not be short of drama either.
Maybe not, but let's give everybody the benefit of the doubt. They've been away from the championship for a little while, so we've had the time off, and now back to the hard work. From Andrew and Jeremy Ferguson's point of view, a decision to be made with each meeting as to who is installed for qualifying. They might be the only crew that are all bronze, actually. Just peering down our entry. Yeah, pretty sure that is the case. So otherwise the decision is made for each of the teams. Sean Lynn, one of the first out in car number 2. We're still waiting, though, for the number 11 of WTM Racing and Torsten Kratz, German driver. He is now in the session, and the CD Sport car number 37 will be the last to join, which should have Fabien Michal at the wheel.
So lots of familiar names, most of them from last season returning, but some returning from past seasons, as Europe starts to open the doors again. We have got fans, by the way, at the circuit this weekend. You can see in the background there that shot, the Extreme Park here. There is some grandstand space available to them. No open paddock yet. It'll come. It'll come. MV2S Forestier Racing's cars this year in contrasting liveries. This is the green and white car. There's an orange and white car as well. And the white car with the red highlights, that is the Reiter Engineering car, the number 76 car. Hans Reiter, long-standing endurance racer, of course, long periods with Lamborghini, and more latterly with the KTM Crossbow in a variety of forms. But I think Hans sniffs the opportunities that are coming in prototype racing, and this is a tentative first step on the ladder.
Two cars from MV2S Forestier Racing, driven by Christophe Cresp, who stays with the crew. But Jérôme de Sadelier is an interesting signing there. The Swiss driver who's been racing a lot in the UK
Radicals,
the last few years.
yes.
In Radicals, yeah, with 360 Racing.
And doing very well indeed. Younger brother of Hugo de Sadelier?
Older, I think.
Okay.
But they are brothers, yes.
But Hugo, of course, long time with United Autosports.
That's right.
Back in the day, including LMP2, if I remember rightly.
Yes, we have raced United LMP2s, yeah, for at least a season, maybe more. So Jérôme de Sadelier, never done ACO rules racing before, but has raced in Europe in his Radical career. So fascinating to see how he gets on in car number 29.
Also out there, another family offering is the number 2 United Autosports car. It's father and son, Sean and Max Lynn, and that is father and brother of Cadillac factory driver Alex Lynn.
Yeah.
Sean with a lot of experience in contemporary and historic racing, a glittering collection of cars down through the years for Sean. And Max has been doing well too in historic racing in the BBM Sport Run BR01, apologies, 17 just running through there. That was a late change in driver, by the way, here for the 17 Edict Sports squad. Charles Cruz taking the seat from team co-owner Patrice Lafargue. Not caught up with why on that front, but it's a fact. And has, by the way, gone through his quickest in the session in these early laps, a 1:53.042 for Charles Cruz, ahead of Pietro Peccanini in the returning TS Corsa Duqueine, the 73 car with the almost heritage Lotus colours on that car. Fabulous looking livery.
Yeah, they are retained for another season. The Optimum Motorsport car of Mark Crader up to 3rd position now, car 20. makes it 2 Ducanes in the top 3, ahead of Martin Rich's RLR Sport Ligier. Jerome de Sadelier in the MV2S car. Forestier Racing is the 29 car, and up to 5th, ahead of Freddie Hunt for Reiter. Jacques Wolf Racing Spirit of Le Mans, and Christophe Cresp in the second MV2S car. Then Steve Parrow for Rinaldi Racing, but everybody moves down a spot as Torsten Kratz goes over the line and sets a 151.791. Now, he was one of the late takers to the session, but doesn't need the additional time, it seems, because the number 11 car vaults its way to the top. And mainly all done in that final sector, an absolute best of a 49 flat.
Ducanes have traditionally been pretty quick here with the long back. So a big spin there for the 37 CD Sport car.
It's Fabien Michal, who's just set the second fastest time in the session, so just couldn't get the speed down sufficiently into turn 1 as Alexander Matchel goes quicker than Torsten Kratz, all on his own, caught a bump it looked like, and the car was unsettled, unbalanced as Michal was trying to slow and shave off the speed. It's not a hard braking area into 1. I mean, you're looking to lose a considerable amount of kph, I suppose, into the left-hander. I've not spotted that bump before.
No.
And the car just did seem to bottom out and then rotate very swiftly indeed.
In response, 2 purple sectors from Torsten Kratz in the WTM racing car as the timing screen bursts into life as people are improving up and down the field. Vast majority of sector times at the moment, our timing screen have gone blue, which means a personal improvement. There are 2 purple sectors shown. They're both against the name of Torsten Kratz right now. He's in the final sector and looking to improve. His middle sector, though, just beaten by Pietro Peccanini. And again by Alexander Matchel. This is going to be a really big wiggle as he came through the final turn. What is the result of that going to be? Torsten Kratz may just have lost that in the final corner. 151.181 to beat.
Also a moment for John Melsom in the Nielsen racing car, number 4. Where has that happened? Again at turn 1. So, but John approaching at a peculiar angle, almost as if initially the movement from the car was right when he's looking to turn left at turn 1. And in adjusting that, approached backwards pretty much, which was very similar style to Fabien Michal. Neither intended, just, well, I can't imagine conditions are particularly slippery. It's a nice warm day, plenty of Michelin rubber's been going down over the last hour or so. But these drivers getting more and more used to their cars and in hot conditions, and just how hard you can push in the early stages of a 15-minute session. Say early stages, we're well beyond half distance now.
There was a lag in the timing. It is indeed 2 provisional pole, the WTM racing car. This car we're looking at now, Torsten Kratz, is a 151.181. It's ahead of the 10 Racing Spirit of Le Mans car. That time deletions coming thick and fast. We'll worry about those a little later. Fabien Michal in that CD Sport car that had the wild spin, now down to 4th place in the order because Fabrice Rossello in the 57 Graf racing car grabs 3rd. It's Duquesne from a sea of Ligiers until we get down to Pietro Peccanini in the TS Corsa car outside the top 10. So 1 Duquesne and 9 Ligiers are the top 10 at the moment. Steve Parrow pops up in 9th. It's a good time from him. That's a Duquesne popping up then into the top 10.
Yeah, just going across the line there. Auden Gudmundsson with a good effort as well to put Team Tour into 7th place. Position 7 for car 77. As Jerome de Sadelier, well, he must have had times deleted because now being displayed as in 25th spot for car 29. And John Melsom, having had that spin at the start of this lap, bailing out and down pit road. That might well be the end of the session for him, depending on how quickly they can get new tyres on the car. Nielsen Racing's machine, which had been going pretty well, John Melsom one of those moments to really grab the attention into turn one, similar to that of Fabien Michel for CD Sport, number 37. Michel's continued on, though, and is running in 6th place. He's behind Fabrice Rossello. There's been another spin.
That's the 30 car.
Fricadelli car, yes, Claes Aberlan himself.
That's a late addition to the entry here, and arrived after the test day. We'll be seeing Felipe Larza in that car for the race. Timing screen's going crackers, really. Jerome Sadler in the 150.660, half a second up now on Torsten Kratz, who is improving and could go back to pole with this lap if he can keep up the momentum through the first 2 sectors. Sadler gone purple again in his latest lap. Mark Crader is going quickly.
Andrew Ferguson's had a time deleted. He is in plenty of company there, with messages pouring their way through on the screen about cars going over the white line. And now a very sideways moment for the Team Virage car of Rob Hodes, number 33. Rob had set a time to put him 26th in the order, and ahead of teammate Alexandre Yvon, also for Team Virage, 33 and 72, right together on the screen. And was that going to be well, he just started another lap, actually, Rob Hodes, having just set his best of the session so far, a 1:54.2.
Torsten Kratz closed that gap and closed it dramatically, but not enough. Just under 2/10 off Jerome de Sadler, who is going quicker at the moment than his previous lap time. 37 car flashing the lights. That's the number 6 car, CD Sport. Reigning champions from the Asia Le Mans Series this year after spectacular form from their 2 cars. Both their Asia Le Mans Series cars are here this weekend, by the way, but one of them is racing for Euro International in the ELMS in a bit of a swap with Euro International's LMP2 car, which CD Sport will be using for Le Mans. And that's one of this number 2 car. That is Sean Lynn, isn't it?
Yeah. Sean installed for qualifying duties, joining son Max the silver, and Sean is the bronze, so he therefore must qualify the car. That was senior corner where he was going sideways. Torsten Kratz falling to 2nd place because Jerome de Sadler has finally put in a lap which was legal and within the white lines. So the Swiss for MV2S Forestier Racing goes to the top, car 29, by just under 0.2 of a second. But in response, with 2.5 minutes to go, Torsten Kratz has just pulled out the best middle sector of anybody in the session so far.
And by a distance, at the moment on track to be over a 10th up. It's a real battle between these two. De Sadler put in that time, then lost his next lap to track limits. What can Kratz do about that? What can anybody else do about that? Maurice Smith is on a good lap at the moment. He's some way down the order, some way further than we'd expected him to be. Steve Parrow has pitted and will take no further parts from 12th. But where else is the pace coming? Kratz goes to the lead. It's a 150.508. And that was a lap deleted again for Jerome de Sadler. So it's a 155.08 now leads the session with under 2 minutes to go. Torsten Kratz in the number 11 WTM racing car from Jerome de Sadler,
who's crossing the line now with 1:33 to go. So he will get
this lap.
He'll get this lap, and that'll be it, because the checkered flag will be flying next time he comes round. 150.508. Jerome de Sadler 0.152 of a second slower. Alexander Matschel's not necessarily out of this. He's just done a 151.1, so half a second away, and he'll get another lap out of it as well. Matschel, the German.
And both Kratz and de Sadler appear to have pretty clear tracks in front of them at the moment. Judge this well in traffic.
Outside of the top 3, Charles Cruz, capable of a 151.3. So he's a chance maybe of starting on the other side of the second row. I think pole and indeed second place on the grid, just a bit far out of the American strips.
He's not far off it. He's not far off it. It's going to be a lot less.
Got to find a second, pretty much.
Indeed.
Fabrice Rossello for Graf Racing, running in 5th, car 57. Then Fabien Michel with that frightening moment into turn 1 for CD Sport. John Schauerman, the best of the United Autosports cars. Car 23 is 7th fastest, ahead of Louis Saint-Jouin for Graf Racing. Then RLR Sport and Martin Rich, 9th. And in 10th place, Mo Smith for Cool Racing, number 69. Came really close to the title last year.
So Kratz crosses the line. There's no improvement, but he will get another crack at this. That won't be the case for Jerome de Savellier, who is coming through to complete a lap that will not put him back to pole position. It's the 69 car. That's the checkered flag is out from Reece Smith. He improves to 10th position. So Reece Smith in the 69 car. Savellier crosses the line. He will do no better than 2nd. He'd export 4th. Right engineering in the hands of Freddie Hunt, 6th. A good performance there from Freddie Hunt. Has raced LMP3s before at the Road to Le Mans.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, a few years ago now, but we'll be able to draw on that experience. So the only Duquesne in the top 13 is from WTM Racing. And remember, that car prepared by Rinaldi this year. Car number 11, Torsten Kratz, somewhere in that middle sector where the cars looked very strong. It's a 31.1. Actually, it hasn't looked very strong, and maybe it's backed off already, comparing that to the 29s, the mid-29s that all the Ligiers have been doing in recent laps.
Yep.
We've had Charles Cruz improve last time around, 151.2. There was also improvement from Freddie Hunt. Is there more time to give? I'm not seeing it much blue or indeed purple for this final circuit.
Slightly odd decision, I thought, there from Tony Wells. Remember, the defending champions here. And Tony opts to pit when he was well up on his lap time. They're going to start this race from no better than 13th position.
Yeah, strange one that, unless they had a problem that they didn't want to push much further on. But 13th position for Nielsen Racing, ahead of then a trio of Duquesnes for Steve Parrow and Rinaldi, for Alexander Bukhantsov and DKR Engineering, and for Pietro Peccinini, TS Corsa. But expertly driven, Torsten Kratz and the WTM Racing crew. He does not see the checkered flag at the end of the session. Instead, comes into pit lane because all the hard work was done in Duquesne number 11, and takes pole by just over a 10th and a half.
Yeah, late improvement for Charles Cruz, that 4th place. He'll be on the 2nd row of this grid. A couple of lurid spins, but happily no damage that I saw there, Johnny, from that session.
Torsten Kratz, the 51-year-old German from Wuppertal in Germany, with bagloads of Nürburgring 24-hour series racing in the domestic series that was known as VLN, now NLS. Races with Zorg Rennsport, in fact, this season in the Cup 3 category does Torsten Kratz, but he is the best qualifier. He'll be joined by Leo Weiss, who is a big name associated with WTM Racing. Georg Weiss, Leo's dad, races as well regularly, and they will start strong favourites, but there are a number of others that didn't necessarily show as we expected them to during that 15 minutes. Indeed. So the race even more fascinating because of that.
Yep, that should mean we see quite the topsy-turvy race, as we often do in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. And as Johnny said at the top of the broadcast, remember, the significant changes, a slightly shorter race distance that takes some of the complications out of it. This is going to be far more of a sprint than on strategy from this point forward. No need now for that second fueling stop. Remember, the other thing to mention here, the other big change here is new fuel.
Yeah, we can talk about that in a moment, but let's just recap the order then after the 15 minutes of LMP3 qualifying. It's a pole position for WTM, Wochenspiegel Team Monschau Racing and Torsten Kratz, a 150.508, ahead of the MV2S Forestier racing car of Jérôme de Sadellier. Then Alexander Matschel for Racing Spirit of Le Mans, Edex Sports Charles Cruz, 4th quickest, ahead of Fabrice Rossello for Graf and Freddie Hunt for Reiter Engineering. Then the CD Sport Car of Spain for Fabian Michal. John Schauerman, United Autosports, number 23, finished 8th fastest, ahead of Louis Saint-Jouin in the 2nd of the Graf cars. Martin Rich for RLR Sport. These predominantly are all Ligiers. It's only the Duquesne that snatched pole position and Torsten Kratz. Otherwise, the next 12 cars are all Ligier, including Auden Gudmundsson for Team Tour, Tony Wells for Nielsen Racing. Straight at it, he came into the pits when, if he'd finished that lap, he would have drastically improved, we think, his position. Steve Parrow is the second of the Duquesnes, all the way down in 14th spot. Alexander Bukhantsov for DKR Engineering, also Duquesne shod. He will start from 15th place ahead of Pietro Peccinini for TS Corsa. We'll do our very best to get some reaction from WTM Racing in a moment or two. A glorious day here in the south of France at Le Castellet, approaching lunchtime, and that is the Michelin Le Mans Cup qualifying done and dusted. By the way, they're racing this evening, and it is scheduled at the moment for a 4:40 race start, and we will be on just before that for the build-up, 20 minutes ahead of schedule. So 4:40 through till 6:30 will take us into the early evening here in the south of France. My thanks to Graham Goodwin. He'll be back a little bit later for the Michelin Le Mans Cup race itself. We hope you've enjoyed our session so far, but the race is going to be even better. We'll see you for that. Bye-bye.